Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you for joining me. Stoked to be back. This is going to be obviously my monthly address. I do this every month at the end of the month, and I talk about the most important transits and some of the expected energies cosmically for the following month. So we are going to talk all about February of 2022. Those of you guys who have been watching my channel, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, I appreciate it. We're seeing lots of interaction and growth actually in the channel. It's been awesome. I'm coming up back on a year here, around a year of kind of really coming back onto YouTube, and after just a year of just creating content, building it, now we're kind of going to the next level. So maybe you guys have seen some of the changes, putting out more content during the week. So every Sunday by Monday, you're going to see the weekly astro weather, where I talk all about the transits for the week ahead. Now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're also having more content coming out. So I'm doing astro musings, talking about my insight and just giving my philosophy on some of the energies that are playing out. And then Thursdays are more educational, so I'm doing educational videos, giving you guys more content, learning about astrology. Been getting some awesome feedback, and also people who are asking questions about new content ideas. Let's hear them. Leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear what you want to learn more about. And on Saturdays, on the evening, we're doing live readings. So every Saturday I'm here, 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern readings. If you are a level 3 subscriber, you're going to get a reading included once a month with your subscription. Pretty great deal. You support the channel, make it possible for me to do this, and you can kind of get on my list once a month. Also, my sessions are all available online. So if you want to check out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com, all of my links are below, my social media, my website, all that stuff. If you would like to get a personal reading with me, they're live, they're on Zoom. Usually booked out anywhere from like 4 to 10 weeks at a time. That's about what it's looking like right now, the end of February going into early March. I practice a combination of tropical Western astrology with an evolutionary flair, predictive astrology. I do composite synastries, solar returns, relocation charts, all kinds of stuff, progressions. So consider booking a session if you want to get more insight and you like my reading style. I'm clairvoyant, clairsentient, and that kind of comes into the readings as well. And I incorporate tarot, so triple threat. All right, thank you for letting me get my spiel out of the way. Let's go ahead and get into February 2022. Now, one thing you're going to notice that's different about the format today is this is purely just me talking about the astrology, how it's going to affect the world, what it's going to feel like, how we navigate it while we're kind of swimming in this cosmic soup. If you want to know more about how the transits are going to affect you, check out my February 2022 horoscopes. They're out, they're new, I'm back. I have had a really hard time just with my work schedule juggling that and making it possible to be able to get away from writing horoscopes to putting them on YouTube. They're on YouTube. I talk about the most important transits of the month, how it's going to affect each and every one of the 12 rising signs, and you also get a tarot card. So you will not get that in this horoscope for the monthlies. This is general, so check out that link. Maybe we'll find a way to plug it into the video. It is the main video right now on my page, so hopefully you guys like that. I've been putting more work into those. So we're going to talk about what's kind of going on in February. Before I get into the daily transit breakdowns, I want to talk a little bit just about the energies, okay? So we are now coming into the mid-range degrees of planets in Aquarius. The month kicks off with a new moon in Aquarius. For some places, it's happening on the 31st of January. For other places, depending on your time zone, it's taking place on the 1st. So this particular new moon, I'll talk about it a little bit today. I did do a video last week, so you guys got a heads up for what was kind of coming. You know, new moon, it's about getting serious, right? So new moons are new opportunities, new seeds, new intentions. So it's kind of like a clean slate. If it is your birthday, happy birthday. New moon birthdays are big changes. You have kind of like a brand new fresh start for the year ahead. Awesome time to kind of look into your astrology and get an idea of what is happening for you specifically. But this new moon is very close to Saturn. So it's almost like on one hand, we're just getting into the start of the month and we're like, okay, this is what we're planning on doing. This is what we're manifesting. Aquarius is about what we're doing collectively. Aquarius is about vibrations. It's a fixed air sign. and it's about the collective. So one thing we're just going to see a lot of that's going to really be taking place in February, really all the way through April, is still a lot of Saturn heavy energies, okay? Lots of planets in Aquarius, lots of placements still in Capricorn. We're still working our way through what will be a shadow period the whole month of February. Mercury will be in shadow, as will Venus. Now, the nice thing is that technically, even though we're in shadow, we're gonna have a really nice period of time where nothing is retrograde. Like once we get past the 4th this month, planets are direct, Venus is direct, Mars and Venus are moving together. They're getting kind of heated up, kind of passionate. Mercury is still gonna be relatively close to Pluto, so there's still those kind of intense, drilling deep, thought-provoking conversations, dealing with power struggles in our life. I'll talk a little bit about my 2 cents and just how I've kind of navigated it and how it's played out for me. But I feel like there's positive changes on the horizon. We're just getting really serious about orchestrating and kind of building into the future, right? So just be mindful, like there is just going to be a lot of Saturn energies. If you're somebody who's Saturn dominant, so if you have a lot of placements in Capricorn, you have a lot of placements in Aquarius, maybe you've got a lot of 10th house or 11th house energies in your chart, or even your nodes, you're gonna fare better with this energy because you're kind of like, well, this is my life 24/7. So, but those of you guys who are like, maybe really have a lot of fire in your chart, you may be kind of feeling like, wow, this is kind of slower. I'm kind of going through the mud with all of these Capricorn and Saturn transits. So fire signs can be having a little bit more of a difficult time with this energy, but for the most part, earth, water, air are still gonna be kind of jiving. So hang tight, fire signs, things are gonna get a little bit better here soon. Yeah, so planets are direct, shadow's gonna end the beginning of March. I'll talk about that more as we're getting closer to the beginning of March. Actually, the energies really start shifting at the end of February, and I'll talk about why, because we have some very big conjunctions happening at that time. Other news is Mars and Venus are going to be kissing several times throughout the month, which in my mind, I think can be quite wonderful because we can really see like, you know, the divine masculine and feminine really working together side by side. And we're seeing this merger of energies where, you know, Mars and Venus are star-crossed lovers. They love each other. They're very passionate. They're very driven. Mars is about obviously our ambition and where we're going and what we're working on or what we're burning through, cutting, severing. It's kind of an interesting energy in the colder kind of Saturn sign of Capricorn because you would think that it's like kind of slow and kind of stuck and serious, but Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So seeing Mars move through there, it really is goal-oriented, and it's going to be, I think, lots of opportunities for team building exercises. Whether this is happening in the office, it's happening with your friendships, it's happening with your relationships. This is going to be a really interesting time where we can use our passions and really be focusing on forward motion and our goals to collectively kind of build towards the future. Lots of people are strategizing and making big changes in their career, right? There's no doubt about it with this retrograde Venus and Mercury that's been in Capricorn, having us rethink our values, rethink our long-term goals, rethink our responsibility, and clearing out any issues that we have relating to problems with having guilt, right? Capricorn is very much associated with guilt. So the guilt of, I should be working harder. I should be more committed in this career. I should be a better parent. I should be focusing more on, you know, my relationship, whatever. There's like lots of shoulds, you know, and should is basically just an indication of an opinion, and everybody has their opinions, but we're reworking that. So we're still working through some of our goals and having some very interesting exchanges with Mercury and Pluto still conjunct. Some sharp tongues is kind of how I've been and kind of experiencing it. Also, we've got the nodes that we have seen move recently into Scorpio and Taurus, and now the North Node is in Taurus, helping us build towards solid, stable, reliable, comfortable, beautiful, valuable things in general. Granted, a lot of our values are changing with Uranus and Taurus, and a lot of us are going to be surprised to see that there's like lots of innovations and upgrades and updates to what we value, how we use money, what we find beautiful, vibrations really kind of changing and getting into the vibration of abundance and health and fertility, right? All Taurus related things. The South Node is in Scorpio. So collective traumas are coming up. People are starting to have episodes of conflicts, from their past, or triggers that are coming up, sexual triggers, security triggers, issues revolving around whether or not we have merger and support from other people. So globally, we're going to see some kind of, I think, challenges revolving around scarcity and our perspective on scarcity and what we're doing to find newer kind of renewable energies and ways of releasing trash, ways of releasing things that are garbage, literally or quite emotionally and spiritually. So to see Mars and Venus, right, moving together, the ruler of the North Node, Taurus, Venus, the ruler of the South Node, Mars, coming into conjunction here at the end of the month, closer to the beginning of March, this is more going to materialize as like the past and the future are both working together, right? And Mars has a goal. It's like, hey man, we got to cut, we got to sever, we got to work through this stuff because where we're going, we can't bring it with us. Venus in Capricorn is Saturnian. She's serious, she's mature, she has goals, she's really planning for the future. And at some point here, not too far away, we're going to see Venus is actually going to move into Aquarius. Totally different energy, more independent, definitely future thinking. And we're going to see lots of changes because it's going to actually rub up and create some squares to Uranus. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but in so many ways, really what's happening is we are in the thick of the building period right now. It's going to be like this really until about March going into April. Once the planets move forward, I think we're actually going to feel like we're starting to see forward motion. So with Mercury going direct, we're going to see communication and business stuff kind of ironing out a little bit. Granted, it'll take time until it leaves Pluto. Now with Venus direct, we're going to be feeling like, hey, relationships are getting easier. It's easier to relate. It's easier to be able to kind of partner and work with people when it comes to resources, money, relationships, things like that. I got to tell you guys, this whole Venus retrograde threw me for a total loop. A lot of things that I thought were going to play out, they kind of did, but it was a lot of stuff that just got drudged up that was kind of being kind of kept underground, right? Pluto is very subterranean. So it's interesting with Venus kind of drilling in with Pluto, and it's bringing up all these intense fears and issues revolving around control, whether or not we're letting go. With Mercury's conjunction to Pluto as well, there's been lots of intense exchanges and conversations and kind of insights that kind of come about through insightful conversations that are very psychologically kind of provoked. So remember, when Pluto gets into the mix with things, he's basically going to say, what are you afraid of? Okay, great. Here's that. Have at it. Good luck. So there's been lots of fears coming up collectively about our jobs, Capricorn, about our responsibility, about our long-term goals, our stability, our security. With Venus getting into the mix, we're having these conversations play out really deeply in relationships. And I've seen it kind of manifest as really seeing what relationships are made from. And certainly, we get passionate when we're seeing Venus-Pluto conjunctions. We're getting the opportunity to really kind of shift gears and get to the core of what's really important to us, what's really going to bring us security, what's going to make us feel safe, and how do we get there, right? So Mars is moving through Capricorn. It's important to look at where Capricorn is in your chart because that's where the Venus party's happening, the Mercury-Pluto party's happening. Mars is moving in there. And we're going to see Mars move through the same degrees with Venus, where Venus has already been with Mercury. So Mars cuts, it severs, it starts things, it ignites things, it gets passionate, it builds, and it's going to give us the opportunity to really practice having courage. I cannot say this enough. Mars in Capricorn is very courageous, and it's slow and it's steady, and it wants to do a quality job, and it wants to make sure that it's not missing anything. Capricorn isn't going to miss anything. It's going to be really great about making sure it has a plan, everything is organized, everything is ready to go. Capricorn's almost like this general energy that's kind of telling everybody what direction the troops need to go in and who's going to do what and when. So if you are a Venus ruled chart, so if you're like a Libra rising or a Taurus rising, Mars and Venus coming together may make you feel a little bit more heated, a little bit more kind of grouchy, a little bit more intense, especially as Mars and Venus are conjuncting. You're going to feel pushed a little bit more by other people. On the flip side, if you're a Mars ruled chart, so if you are an Aries rising, or if you are a Scorpio rising, or you just have a lot of, Mars energy in your chart, maybe Sun, Moon, or rising on either side, what you will experience is Venus coming in and softening things. So it will be like women that come in, or relationships that come in, or nurturers that come in, and it's going to kind of cool and temper the waters of what's usually kind of a very Mars experience that you have in your life, right? So Mars charts are going to kind of soften. They're going to experience more harmony, relationships, love, kind of connection. Venus ruled people are going to kind of feel a little agitated, a little heated up. The pressure is going to begin. Mars in Capricorn is this pressure. And what is the pressure? It's time. Time constraints, time restriction, time in our relationship to time, how old we're getting, our schedule, whether or not we have time to get things done. I talked a little bit about this in my Astro Musings video. If you guys didn't check that out, please do. It was just my 2 cents on my relationship with this experience. I'm super Saturnian. I consider myself like, my passport's been stamped to Saturn and back several times. And I've realized that time does not exist, okay? The old kind of confines of time and time expectations, they're actually really hindering us, and it's keeping us so almost obsessive and fixated on whether or not we have enough time, if we're running out of time, if we're meeting certain timelines. Guys, the rules of time are changing. Now with Mercury and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn, which rules time, and now that we've got the Sun coming into conjunction this month with Saturn, there is a new timeline that is kind of showing up. For some of you guys, it's speeding up and you're realizing, oh my gosh, it's happening. Okay, we got to go. For others, it's like, well, I'm willing to readjust my timeline. Actually, what I'm aiming for and what I'm hoping to achieve, it's not really lining up with the group that I'm working with, and we need more time to launch this, or we need more time to move. So Aquarius is going to get us thinking about time, but more in a sense of we can reach our group goals as long as we're really working on our own individual purpose, because every single person can make a difference by focusing on shifting their goals. And that's where we start to see the collective energies of Aquarius really begin to move forward. So Mars in Capricorn, slow, steady, quality work, courageous, passion. Watch for those battle of the sex moments that might happen. I got to tell you, I'm a Venus ruled chart. Now I have Mars that's actually coming into conjunction with my Venus in the 4th house. I should have known better, right? So, I had this huge retrograde going on in my 4th house, and it's square to my moon. And I was like, okay, I'm going to reorganize the whole kitchen, the whole house. I'm going to get rid of all the old stuff, anything that's old, outdated, not working. I'm going to organize. I'm going to label everything, super Mercury, right? I'm going to declutter and make everything super functional and do this and do that. And in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, none of this is really going to start showing until we get to like the end of January, beginning of February. Make my order for the container store, get everything ready, only to find out everything's delayed. I'm not getting any of the stuff till the end of January, right? And even though I started the process of reorganizing certain things, it was like I didn't have the tools that I needed. I didn't have the containers and the things that were going to hold everything. So I've pulled everything out, disorganized everything, probably driven everybody in the house absolutely mad doing it, because it's not just the kitchen, it's been the bathrooms. We brought a dog into the house, and I knew it wasn't a good idea, but I did it anyway. And it's just been, my whole schedule has just been on its head, right? And it's made dealing with schedules and also just home relationship dynamics extremely tense, because I upended everything. Uranus in the 4th. Natally. However, what it has taught me is that no matter how much I want things to go and I want to control things, the Capricorn energy is actually restricting and limiting me, because I'm trying to force it into my timeline. I got to get it done this month. I got to get it done this week. I only have this much free time to do it. So it has to, boom, all fit into this compartment. It's very strict, right? But then as soon as the Aquarius energy started coming in, and then as soon as we had, you know, sextiles start forming between planets in Capricorn and Jupiter, which it is right now, I went, oh, my vision's changing. And actually, I need to be more in the state of flow. And maybe it's my schedule that needs to work around what works for me and my sphere of Capricorn, my timeline, what I need. And instead of forcing it, trying to make it happen at one time, visualizing it, letting it come together, and actually sorting and sifting and looking at things going, do I really need this? Is it practical? Does it make me feel good? Super Marie Kondo, right? And now it's starting to come together. So a month later, finally the products start coming in. I'm organizing. It's turned out a little different than I thought. It's made me realize that it's actually less about practicality, Capricorn. It's more about what looks nice, Venus, what feels good, what's gonna make my life run more smoothly, and more importantly, how getting all of this organized is actually really supporting in a big way Aquarius and Pisces, because Aquarius goes, okay, now you've got the freedom, go and do what you got to do. Pisces is going to say, well, now we're going to make this more in a state of flow. So even me having all of this knowledge about this stuff, it totally sent me for a tailspin. It's made me realize that I've been way too strict in certain areas of my life, and I'm not actually giving more to the Cancer, Pisces area. Super watery, very emotional. So some of you might resonate with that. I've heard from quite a few people, a lot of Libra risings, a lot of Venus-based charts that have had a difficult time the last couple of months, but it's clearing out. Things are going to get better. This leads me to the sextiles that are happening between planets in Capricorn, like Mars, Venus, right? Pluto, Mercury. All are going to start forming sextiles to Jupiter and Neptune and Pisces. Some have already happened. So that's wonderful, because I see this as grounding out our realities, what we are initiating to be actively building towards our dreams, right? Pisces is dreams, the invisible world. A lot of people say, you're going to see it to believe it. No, that's not how this works anymore. And it's not even like, if you believe it, you can build it. No, that's not how this works anymore either. Capricorn basically says in so many ways, we have to get grounded, we have to get practical, right? We have to find something that's functional, that works. We have to be willing to do the work. Granted, it's been peppered with some intensity, because Mercury kind of being in conjunction to Pluto and also retrograde. And it's made several conjunctions. As I'm making this, it's conjunct right now, where it's just drilling for information, for data. And there's been a lot of obsessive thoughts coming up about what we can and cannot control. But what if I told you that this is all an illusion, and part of what's going on is that it's desperately trying to get you to realize where you're so fixated, holding on so much, obsessively thinking so much about power, control, timelines, guilt, responsibility, heaviness, right? That it's actually keeping you from being able to just release and let go. Pluto wants you to kill something off. So it's like, you know, something that's really helped me is kind of looking at things going, other people aren't on my timeline, and I have to let that go. Other people aren't always going to get back to me in a timely fashion. Other people aren't always going to want to have the conversations when I want to have them. Other people aren't going to share the same ideas. All I can do is observe, right? Take a step back, observe. That's the difference between Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn wants to initiate, it wants to get things moving, right? And Aquarius doesn't have a hard time taking a step back going, okay, well, that's great. You know, you do that. You have that really strict kind of routine that works for you. This is what works for me. I can be super committed in an independent sense and not feel the need to rely on other people. And I don't need somebody to tell me what to do either. That's the difference between Capricorn and Aquarius. So the whole purpose of this, right? If we look at this in a timeline sense, all of the planetary aspects conjunct Pluto is basically the train that's leaving the station. We're getting the opportunity to dump the old value system, dump the old relationships, dump the old storyline, the old theory of how our life has been going, how difficult things need to be, what's challenging, what's too much work, what's too hard, right? Saturn energy, it crystallizes. And what's interesting is there's a lot of crystallization going on in Capricorn, super cold, and it's when everything begins to harden. This next month, we're going to see lots of opportunities with sextiles between Capricorn and Neptune, where it's going to be like, things are going to get really difficult. We're going to sit with it. It's going to defrost a little bit. Then it's going to tighten up a little bit, and we're going to go, no, I committed to this. It almost kind of reminds me of Anybody who's had like a muscle cramp, you know, or like a spasm or like a Charlie horse, you know, if you panic and you kind of sit there and you fight it, it's going to last longer, right? The restriction is going to last longer. The pain's going to last longer. And it's going to be harder for you to actually relax the muscle, even if you're trying to rub it and everything. Actually, the best thing you can do is just lay there, stretch, lean into it, breathe, flex that muscle, hold it, go, nope, I'm holding, I'm holding, I'm holding, I'm holding, and the pressure dissipates. So that's what I want you guys to think about this month. Great exercise for anything Saturnian. Yoga. Hold the posture, hold the pose, hold the breath, right? Extend, get long, get lean, hold into it, and then release. So we're actually learning to flex muscles in Aquarius that you would think we're ready for. Like last year, 2021 was, it was a dress rehearsal for 2022. Jupiter was going into Aquarius saying, this is what the future could be like. This is what could happen. We could have more isolation. We could have more separation. We could have more independence. We could have more technology, but we could also come closer to our dreams. So I think what's interesting about what's kind of going on right now is that there is going to be a little bit of us kind of psyching ourselves out when we see conjunctions to Saturn, when we see also that there are squares going on to the nodes. More of this is actually going to happen in like March going into April when Mars, Venus, Saturn come into Aquarius and they square the nodes. And we have to remind ourselves, no, this is just the muscle spasm. This is the Charlie horse. Nope, I'm going to hold. We committed to this. Aquarius is second to Capricorn. So Capricorn's getting us motivated, getting us, you know, thinking about all of the ways that we can reorganize things and what we're going to start. So that way we can become more independent financially, right? Huge theme for 2022, but also in a sense of our values. So we can actually independently be working on things, independently be creating art and finding value in beauty. But in order to do that, we need other people. So this whole year, we're going to find out that it's not actually going to work by having this kind of Capricornian dog-eat-dog structure, right? I'm seeing it with some of the lives of my clients. I'm seeing a lot of people with like Pluto in Leo who are not adapting well, Leo risings, Leo suns having a difficult time because of all of this Aquarian energy. So you've got people going into the workforce and they don't understand why they can't talk shit about their coworkers and climb up the corporate ladder, why they can't make jokes about sexism, why they can't make jokes about race, why they can't have this kind of cutthroat dog-eat-dog perspective when it comes to one-upping other people to be the person who comes out on top. Those days are over. As soon as Pluto goes into Aquarius, forget it. That's not going to work. People who are actually going to get ahead in this world are going to be people who are thinking about other people, helping others, sharing information, trying to collectively make the world a better place. If you're not doing that, you're fucked. I mean, point blank, that's what's going to happen. So this next couple month period, it's giving us the opportunity to work towards collective goals, right? And guess what? When we have squares to Uranus and Taurus, it's not always going to make sense financially. The money is not always just going to immediately appear. The resources may not be in a dollar amount. So in a lot of ways, this is that period of time where things are starting, we're going to see, especially in Pisces season, things are starting to dissolve. And sometimes we have to dissolve old ways of being, old structures, old power structures, old control factors in our life in order to segue and go more so in the direction that we want to, especially vibrationally, right? Especially vibrationally. All right. So let's now get into what's going to be happening for the month ahead. And it's going to start off with February 1st, 2022, that new moon in Aquarius. So like I said, guys, check out my last week's video. I talk all about the new moon. This one kind of rocks and rattles and rolls. Every time I look at these aspects, I see something new. And one thing that I would say is just with the new moon in conjunction to Saturn, you know, it can be something that takes us by surprise, especially because later in the day when the moon ingresses later into the sign of Aquarius, it is going to form a T-square to the nodes. The sun is also still in a square to Aquarius, to Uranus. So whether you consider Saturn to be, you know, the traditional ruler of Aquarius or Uranus, any which way you cut it, Aquarius is saying, hey, we got to do this work here so we can collectively make the changes in the spring. Or if you look at it from the Uranus perspective, the Sun-Saturn square Uranus is the collective really needs a change, right? We need an upgrade, and that's in a square to Uranus. So Moon square Uranus is emotional insights, kind of shocking things. Sun conjunct Saturn is definitely a little bit more cold, you know, detached, kind of getting serious, committing, you know, really kind of getting down to the details. I feel like the Sun in conjunction to Saturn in Aquarius has a very different vibe than the Sun conjunct Saturn in Capricorn. Capricorn wants to initiate and start things. Aquarius is just carrying this over. So, you know, there's that. We do see that, you know, Mars and Venus are building into a sextile with Jupiter. So to some extent, between that sextile where we're building towards our dreams, we're seeing the world open up a little bit, you know, boundaries, borders, in a way, maybe you're dissolving a little bit. Certain countries are open more. We're seeing kind of mandates dropping here and there. I think the optimism is also building because we see Jupiter in Pisces in a sextile to Uranus. I'm going to do a video on that this week because I see that as lots of opportunities for miracles, sudden changes of fate, things kind of shifting very dramatically, very quickly for some people, and finding that when it comes to support, money, resources, changes in values, there's going to be positive swings and kind of changes of fate, especially with Jupiter in Pisces. It's allowing our dreams and our visions to manifest. So this is why it's so important actually right now to actually deal with grounding our energies, focusing on meditation, moving away from getting kind of sucked into the confines of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunctions that are coming, which will have some people wanting to lean more into drinking, drugging, partying, sleeping, losing themselves in screens, Oculus headsets, all kinds of things. Like we're leaving the matrix, right? That's kind of what's happening right now. We're getting ready to leave the matrix. And there are going to be some people who are going to go, nope, I'm going to drink the booze, put on the Oculus headsets and check out. They're going to give away their Neptune. They're going to be asleep while this whole collective upgrade is happening. Then there's going to be other people who are going to lean more in the Uranus and Taurus side that are going to be like, no, I'm getting out to nature. I'm focusing on retreats. I'm grounding my energy. I want to know where my food is coming from. I want to practice being in the body. North Node in Taurus, being in the body and what it means to be in the body and to simplify and have our hands in the dirt, right? And actually feel the energetic vibrations that are coming from the earth. Something I've been really interested in recently is like grounding mats. I've been looking at like grounding mats and things because, you know, in a perfect world, I could just do my sessions probably outside, but that's just not possible given where I'm living because in a couple of months you bake to a crisp. But I've been really interested in grounding mats. I've been focusing more on working with crystals and using crystals because I'm realizing that it's helping me kind of work with my energies a little bit better. I'm super water-based, so as soon as Jupiter went into Pisces, I was like, oh my gosh, like space cadet. So I've had to kind of ground my energies more. Grounding mats might be a thing. Energy and stuff revolving around vibrations. We think about the North Node coming into conjunction with Taurus later this year and the opportunity to actually literally manifest more abundance, upgrade the body, upgrade our security through vibrations, through astrology, Uranus, right? So I'm liking the Jupiter sextile Uranus. I would say don't get too optimistic because there will be some things that might be too good to be true. We want to kind of acknowledge the optimism. I'm stoked about it, but I do feel like down the road when planets come into conjunction with Saturn and they square the nodes in like April, it almost might be, it's like we're losing our inhibitions through all that Neptune stuff, that spiritual stuff, that Pisces stuff. And then Aquarius is going to go, nope, rein it back in a little bit, or here's some more restrictions. So find ways to work with grounding your energy, electronics, electricity, vibrations, frequencies, water, right? Jupiter and Pisces, water. I think of like yoga, maybe like focusing on ways to be able to bring more Taurian energies into water. So like aromatherapies and things like that can be really helpful too, working with liquids. Okay, so go see more about that new moon video. I talk all about it and how it's going to affect all of the signs. I just think between the new moon and then the sun coming into conjunction with Saturn a couple of days later, like, you know, there's some harsh reality checks that are coming. Big time. Big, big, big time. Then the sun's also going to square the nodes later in this sequence of transits. So it's going to represent this Saturn solar energy. Now, some of you guys might have like an insightful conversation with an older person. Saturn can be an older person. So it can be a mentor, a parent, a priest, a teacher. It can be just an older, wiser individual, right? Especially in Aquarius, I think we're going to see just a huge uptick of people who are wanting to learn more about astrology. They're wanting to seek out astrologers, people who can help them collectively kind of figure out why these energies are changing and kind of get to the next step. But the sun represents our energy, our creativity, our joy, our happiness. So anybody who's got sun conjunct Saturn might feel like a little bit of like an Eeyore. You know, I personally love those people. Same way with Cap risings. I love Cap risings. But it may be this interaction you have with somebody who goes, yeah, you know, if we don't start considering the future, if we don't start thinking about the future generations, if we don't start thinking about freedoms and certain personal and civil liberties, if we don't start thinking about how we're affecting the planet, how we're affecting our environment, whether or not we're saving the polar bears and all the other animals that are apparently dying off. You know, I read an article the other day that was talking about scientists are officially kind of ringing the warning bell, letting people know that we're seeing mass extinction of species. Saturn, death. In traditional astrology, Saturn was the furthest planet. It was like our modern day Pluto. So whenever there were conjunctions to Saturn, we have to deal with Saturn kind of energies in our life. The truth about death, letting go, seeing some people transition, seeing the light or the actual energy body dim, having a more grave or kind of serious view on the future. So when the sun conjuncts Saturn, and then when we also start to see that the nodes move to square Saturn in a couple weeks' time, the future is now. We start thinking about the future now, but we start thinking about the future differently, collectively. I gotta tell you guys, we may get to our end-all be-all goal. I do believe that. I'm super optimistic. I felt much better in the last week about where the world is going because I'm realizing that for a lot of people, it's almost like the pain of staying the same is so much more painful than just actually making the change. That this cosmic pressure cooker that's kind of happening right now with Pluto is saying, wouldn't it be nice to just let it go, right? It's scary to let it go, to quit the job, to move, whatever. But actually there's something super cathartic about just being like, you know what, I don't have to carry this anymore, right? And finally breaking those patterns of obsessive thinking and thoughts. We're seeing a lot of this also because Mercury is still going to be in a trine to the North Node for the first week or so, basically of February. So it's messages about the future, about what? North Node in Taurus, security, stability, money. A lot of people are planning for things. They're planning for the stock market to crash. They're planning for their retirement. They're planning for this, they're planning for that. Even the government in the midst of all this are planning. That's because they know that there are changes coming. Intuitively, I've just had this feeling that's like, what's been going on in the world? Why has it been the last 2 years, we've been locked indoors, there's been this virus going on. Why has all of this been created? Saturn. Saturn wants us to willingly go into the cave, do the work, reflect, and start thinking about what our karma is, what our role in everything is, what our responsibilities are. So actually a lot of this has been happening since Saturn went into Capricorn. And that was what, the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. So clear before we actually had the pandemic, some of these energies were already breaking down. We were already seeing the effects of big business in our life, the effects of government abusing, misusing, misleading, and taking advantage of people in the world and not really truly allowing us to have freedom. Depending on where you live, obviously freedom is going to differ from state to state, country to country. But I think that we're really starting to kind of shift gears and realize maybe perhaps we've given so much of our freedom away. So what of your freedom have you been giving away? And how can you actually organize collectively with groups of other people to bring that back? Good friends are hard to come by. So I think Aquarius makes me think about friendships and relationships. And something that's come up for me a lot in meditation has just been kind of like quality over quantity, right? Quality over quantity. Or 4 quarters versus 100 pennies. So friendship and the thought of friendship and what does it truly mean to be friends? Aquarius has the ability to be friends with all sorts of different people. They're different nationalities, belief systems, religions, all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, they have the ability to go, you know, we don't see eye to eye, totally fine, totally okay. We're still friends. We still share the same common energy. You know, we're all connected, like this very like Pocahontas way. And allows other people to also have their opinions, fly their freak flag, go their own way, do their own thing. That is true friendship. Friendship is going to be seen differently in the future. And I think it's about not just where we belong in a sense of networking or what social media we're on or what we're doing, but I think we're going to start being judged socially more so based off of the company that we keep. And so here's the interesting thing about Saturn in Aquarius is that it shows us that we have to actually be our own best friend. And the more that we focus on being our own best friend and kind of really being good to ourselves, that's going to have a ripple effect, because you're going to see people who really aren't good friends fall off. Networks and communities that are bullshit, that really aren't doing anything for you or for the community or the world at large, are also going to fall apart. I think of like these fancy, you know, country clubs that you belong to, and they're so prestigious, and it's this and it's that, and it's who you know, but like, what the fuck are those people actually doing for you? You play tennis with them, but what are you actually doing for each other? It's all who you know. So we're moving into a future where a lot of us are actually going to start being judged socially by a new system. Is it going to be a credit system based off of technology? Maybe. Is it going to be that we're actually seen and valued or given some type of respect depending on what we're doing for others? Why? Because it's not like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back thing. It's more of a what are we doing to be able to bring everybody together and have a common sense of mutual respect, right? So I think we're hopefully moving towards a future where we're not having people in business suits looking down on homeless people, right? And we're also not really glamorizing people who have this energy about them that's like holier than God, at least I'm hoping. So what we see with this new moon is that collectively this starts kind of coming together. And when we become more focused on how we're helping each other, that's when we start to see the shift. The shift is going to be hard though. On the 3rd, we're going to see that Mercury goes direct in Capricorn. Yes. Forward thinking, forward motion. If you've been waiting to sign a lease, if you've been waiting to move, buy a car, all of these things, technically you're in the clear. When Mercury is getting ready to station, it gets a little wonky. And so sometimes we see on each side of the shadow of the pre and the post retrograde, things get a little crazy. You're in the clear, but you know, Mercury is still going to conjunct Pluto again. And then later in the month, it's going to go back into Aquarius and it's going to square Uranus. The shadow energies don't end until the beginning of March. So if you're willing to kind of go with the bumpiness and still kind of course correcting and making changes, and you're still aware that there's going to be surprises, okay, you can sign that stuff. You can do all that if you need to. So when it goes direct, it's going to be at 24 degrees. And then a couple days later, it's going to come into conjunction with Pluto again. So just be mindful of that, okay? Like there's still some trappings. Like there can still be this sense of like the drains are clogged. The mental drains are kind of clogged. And I'm looking at the sextile that it's making between the moon and Neptune that day. So it's a lot of like clearing through the murkiness. You know, Pluto is very about feelings. And so something that I've just seen in myself, I've seen it in other people, is that the Mercury-Pluto conjunction has more so been about fear. It's not about power. It's not about anger. It's not about control. Everything is derivative of fear or love. So if people are erupting and having these intense like eruptions, it's over fear of losing control, fear of not having a goal. You know, a lot of people are super fucking attached to their title. It's like, maybe it's just me. I'm kind of jaded. I lived in LA for like 15 years, but anytime you meet anybody, it's like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I do for a living. This is who I work for. This is who I know. And every time it rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, who gives a fuck what you do? Like, who are you? Like, what do you love? What if we introduced ourselves based off of what we love doing, but not necessarily our job? And I think the Mercury-Pluto conjunction is a lot of, there is this death going on and this shift going on revolving around titles and this feeling of being fearful or scared or angry, you know, all of the stages of grief because we're feeling like we're losing control. So you're still going to be in that the first week or so of February. So just a heads up. On the 4th of the month, we're going to see big day, lots of stuff going on this day. Mars in Capricorn is going to sextile Jupiter in Pisces. I like this because I feel like Mars is having a conversation with Venus, who's direct, and it's sextiling Jupiter, and it's basically kind of going, yes, I can see it. I'm visualizing it. I can see this coming together. And it's strategizing, but strategizing from a very spiritual vantage point. Jupiter in Pisces is believing in things before you see them, knowing and having this feeling. It is optimism, but it's also the willingness to kind of work through the emotional juices and really kind of feeling optimistic and excited for the future. And that's funneling into Mars. So Mars is saying, this is what we're going to do. And Jupiter goes, full steam ahead. This is how I see it playing out, right? Very creative energy on tap. Sun's going to conjunct Saturn the same day. Wah, wah. Sun, Saturn, getting serious about the future, right? So the sun is being reborn with Saturn. This is an interesting aspect, guys. We are going to see that Uranus will square that this year. We are also going to see that eclipses are going to challenge these degrees later this year in the spring. Sun, Saturn at a 15 is a very Gemini degree. Here's my recommendation. On the 4th, I don't even know what day this is. Let's see. It's going to be Friday. It's almost like somebody turns the light out on the party, right? So the sun already being in Aquarius is a little bit of a rebel. But in some ways, I think the most rebellious thing that you can do this Friday night is actually really commit to something. Commit to a plan. Commit to something that's important. Write it down, speak it into action, and really focus and get serious. Because I feel like whatever you're committing to this day, it's going to send ripple effects throughout the year. And maybe it's important to make a vision board. Maybe it's important to write your mantras down. Maybe it's important to make a whole list of your goals. And man, put it somewhere where everybody's going to see it. You know, I'm not a fan of people who are like, I'm doing a 90-day challenge. And they post all that stuff on Facebook about, going to the gym and losing weight, or, people who are just really out there about their goals. But here's one thing I would say. With the conjunction to Aquarius, almost in a way telling the world, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm serious about, this is what I'm committed to doing, there's a sense of accountability here. So it's difficult, it's challenging, Sun, Saturn. Maybe it doesn't feel so fun, maybe it feels limiting, maybe it feels like a difficult hurdle to kind of get over. But I think putting it out there and sharing it with other people and letting other people know this is your goal, this is what you're working on, and accountability is going to be huge. So make those commitments that day. Get serious about the future, working collectively towards our goals and visions. Something else that we're going to see that's a little bit of an ouch later on the 4th is that the moon will ingress further into Aries. This I'm not wild about because it makes me feel like people have to take initiative and it's going to kind of go against the grain a little bit. Moon conjunct Aries, Chiron. So healing personal issues physically or just feeling kind of isolated. There's a sextile to Sun, Saturn, so that's nice. So you have support. But it's going to square Mars and Venus. That's a little bit of friction. Mars square Chiron, Venus in a square to Chiron. There's almost this sense of like maybe feeling like you have to be more assertive and take action, and it doesn't always resonate with other people, but you know that you have to do it, and it's like a day of boundaries. So watch out for the 4th. The 4th is just definitely going to be a little bit more of an active day than usual. February 8th, we've got Mars in Capricorn trine Uranus in Taurus. So Mars trine Uranus is electric. It's electrifying. Really from the 7th, the moon's already in that conjunction. And we're also going to see that the moon's going to move through the later degrees of Taurus and touch the North Node, reactivating the eclipse point of November 19th. So there's this kind of like, oh, just remember what we're committing to. This is what we said. This is what we're doing. Doesn't really resonate so much with Saturn. So you want to look at where Taurus and the North Node is. Thankfully, though, because we have Venus conjunct Mars, really nice if we have a Taurus moon, and Mars trine Uranus is electric, it's forward moving, it's quick moving, it's innovative, it's not going to hesitate to cut, make changes. Remember, Mars is moving through the same territory as Venus and Mercury here pretty soon. So Mars is going to come in and go, okay, we talked about this, boom, 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 and start putting things together. And if it's not working, it's going to get cut. So look for that. I would say there can be lots of just sudden shifts. These 11s are kind of interesting because that also talks about what's working collectively. It's an Aquarius energy. On the 11th, we see Mercury come back into its conjunction with Pluto. So this is the third conjunction. It's happened several times. It's really been strong the whole last week of January. Really, this conjunction started at the end of December. So this is the last and final conjunction between Mercury and Pluto. Interesting that it's at a 27. It's in a trine to the North Node. So it's going, I know I have to let this go. I have to let this go in order to move more into that. So what are you obsessively fixing on? What are you having a hard time releasing? Where are you being antagonized? Where are you being bullied, right? And where does it make sense actually not to hit back? It's important not to hit back with some of these angles that are going to be taking place, especially with that moon being in Cancer, and the moon is going to oppose Mars and Venus. So there is a need to kind of taper that energy a little bit, really kind of pay attention to what's going on emotionally. We can't just push through things the way that we used to. All these retrogrades in Capricorn has taught us working harder sometimes is not actually working smarter, right? With Taurus energy, with Venus energy, especially Venus in Capricorn, slow and steady wins the race. We want quality. We want to be focusing on quality. Quality time, quality work, quality values, right? Tradition. It's interesting, super traditional energy that's kind of happening clear into Aquarius season. So that's the last conjunction on February 12th, and this will be the 12th through the 26th. We're really focusing on February. Yes, I know it goes into March, but February 12th through 26th, Mars and Venus are going to conjunct and kiss in the sign of Capricorn. So we don't think of Capricorn as like super romantic, right? Like Venus in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn can be a little bit more conservative, can be a little bit cooler, a little bit more practical. It's like what's sexy, right? Like somebody who works hard, or a nice expensive leather bag, a good credit score, tickets to Aspen, whatever, all those like Capricorn fantasy things. But I think with Mars and Venus coming together is we're actually really thinking more about the aspects that it's making to Uranus. So there's been changes. We can find we actually have similar values and we can work towards it together. But Mars and Venus is super passionate. You know, it's really great. I think it's great that it's happening over Valentine's Day. I think that maybe we're going to find that with these conjunctions happening, people are maybe kind of thinking about tradition. So there can be like some tradition or some nice gifts that are being given, but they may be antiques, or they may be older, or family heirlooms, or we're kind of looking at relationships in a more traditional way. Traditional fashion is going to start making a comeback with some of this stuff. I think we're going to see like more kind of military jackets, or things that are kind of bone and form fitting. When I think of Capricorn, vintage clothes, vintage jewelry, there might be more traditional exchanges of love. So you're not going to see like all these flashy Valentine's Day things where it's like, you know, all of these like cheap, gross flowers and teddy bears and things. Maybe we're going to see it come back in like traditional Valentines. Maybe we're going to give practical gifts. Maybe we're going to give heirlooms and like nicer, older quality things to people. But anytime we have Mars and Venus together, especially when it's moving into this sextile with Neptune, it's romantic. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who might be opting to like go and spend time in nature, or going on hikes, or going and doing things that are more traditional. Although, you know, just me thinking of like Venus in Capricorn, it's like very like going to a steakhouse and wearing a fur jacket and, you know, diamonds and like other things, which are more traditional exchanges when it comes to like dating and like romantic connection. So we'll see how that pans out. But you can really see those conjunctions happening from the 12th through the 26th, and it's going to just increase until we actually get to the end of February, where we start to see Mars, Venus, and Pluto align, and that's really strong the end of February through the beginning of March. Focus on working together. Change can be sexy with these trines that you're seeing to Uranus, and I think we can be just very passionate about our goals in general. On the 14th of the month, we're going to see Pluto in Capricorn is going to trine the North Node in Taurus. Powerful day on tap, powerful. I'm especially excited to see what happens maybe when the moon then goes into Virgo about 2 days later and it completes that trine, because we're going to start to see things really ground out. And like I said, it's that theme of physical change, the earth signs all kind of playing out and bringing us this new shift when it comes to our physical third dimensional shift happening. body changes, financial changes, home changes. We're actually going to start to see things shift. I've been telling people for the last 2 years, the North Node's been in Gemini. We've been tossing around ideas. We've been saying, yeah, sure, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll start this business, we'll live here. Boom, the North Node goes into Taurus, and now we have to be about it. Now it has to physically materialize. We have to actually put our money where our mouth is, Taurus. We have to actually do the work. We have to do the building. We have to focus on our values. On the 14th, also, we see Mercury enters Aquarius again. Welcome back. So Mercury conjunct Aquarius, Mercury conjunct Juno. I'm wondering, is there going to be a lot of people who are going to get engaged around Valentine's Day? That's the vibe that I'm getting. We still have that trine to the North Node, so there can be lots of talk of unions and relationships and partnerships, but it's different, right? It's Aquarius. So it's, I think a shift revolving around, we're going to see lots of changes in wedding trends, lots of changes in regards to how we view partnership, and it doesn't have to be this very kind of Saturn that it's been in Capricorn. Now it's kind of like we can be together, but we can also practice freedom. So anybody who has Juno and Aquarius, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Mercury's back in Aquarius, and, lots of just texts, phone calls, communication, stuff with the internet. Coming off the Sun conjunct Saturn, we're going to see more limitations on the internet. We might see slower bandwidths. We might see things kind of breaking down. We might see new platforms coming in, new restrictions, right? We're going to see that there's all kinds of new things going on with what you can or cannot see on the internet. I think you guys get what I'm saying. I can only say so much. But it's fair to say that there's been lots of things going on in the world that not everybody has seen. Lots of movements. All the stuff going on in Canada with the truckers. You're not seeing that on the news. All kinds of things going on in terms of still lockdowns happening in places that's not getting out. So watch for that. The internet's going to be ablaze with the Mercury transit in Aquarius. It's still in shadow. And something else that I would say is that I do kind of get the impression that the truth about censorship is going to come out, and just to what extent the fact-checking and the censorship is actually having on politics, and where tech and politicians and the internet and all that stuff, they're all in bed together. Like, we know this, but we're really going to see it, and we're really going to see who's actually helping spin certain narratives. That's all I'm going to say about that. Also, just, lots of like memes and conspiracies galore, right? Mercury and Aquarius, reptilian people. February 16th. February 16th. We see this full moon that's happening in Leo. Let's bump this back a little bit. And it's in the later degrees of Leo, conjunct Regulus, very royal, lots of drama, big hair, big earrings, that kind of stuff, big hoop attitude. Full moon in Leo is in a square to the nodes, holy grand fixed cross. It's like, this is the realization that's like, oh, shit's gonna change. The world's changing. And the drama that comes with that, So if this is a full moon, we look at the sun squares the nodes. Hi, time for things to change. We're changing. The later degrees of Aquarius is when things get weird globally. So this might be when we start kind of realizing, oh, there is a change going on with taxes. There's a change going on with inflation. There's a change going on with resources, values. Then here comes Mercury, and then it'll take really until March, April for the full effects to really show up. But that's a day to watch. I'll do a video on that. That full moon will be coming. It's going to be really big for all of the fixed signs, especially if you're anywhere from 26 degrees of the fixed signs to, I would say, 2 degrees of the cardinal signs. It'll affect you guys too, because it's within a 2-degree orb. So pay attention to that. That will be coming soon. Glitz and glamour, those degrees. That's Trump's ascendant. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. I can think of a couple people who have those placements. February 17th, Jupiter in Pisces, sextile Uranus in Taurus. So I'm doing a video. I started working on it. It's going to come out this week. And it's just about miracles. And you guys know I'm super grounded with some of my predictions and things that I'm kind of seeing. But the Jupiter optimism of Pisces and the invisible possibilities and the spiritual awakening and the cosmic shift that's happening, and people are really waking up and getting super spiritual. We're going to see this a lot in Pisces season. The sextile to Uranus is going to be amazing. Earth and water, guys, okay? Gardening, grounding your energy, doing yoga in the dirt, going hiking, swimming in lakes, swimming in the ocean. Anything that's about being in nature and connecting the earth and the water element is going to be helpful. But this is about literally manifesting physical changes in abundance. I think like abundance magic. I think about you know, setting intentions and working with herbs and working with potions and oils and baths and this and that. Like there's going to be a lot of that happening over the next couple of months. But yeah, Jupiter sextile Uranus, I think happens like every 5 or 6 years. And when it's happening in a sign where, you know, Jupiter is exalted and then Uranus is just sudden changes in regards to resources and fortune. Honestly, I mean, across the board, I've looked at how it's affecting all of the 12 signs. Everybody's going to get a little bit of cosmic goodness. It's going to be like a Wheel of Fortune moment that's going to play out where Jupiter is going to positively aspect both the North Node and Taurus. So if you want a little bit of a preview, look at where Jupiter is in your chart in Pisces and look at the sextile, that Venusian energy, the 60-degree energy it's making to Uranus, and then also the North Node. So of course it would make sense that Capricorn's like, let's create the goals. And then, you know, Pisces season goes, here's the vision. I'm manifesting, I'm praying, I'm thinking about this. I know it's going to happen. I have faith. I don't see it, but I know because I've seen it in my dreams. I've seen it intuitively. I've seen it in the cards. I've seen it in the astrology. And to some extent, Pisces season for some people can also be the meltdown, where if you have not been participating in this Mercury Venus retrograde, it's like you're going to go, oh shit, it's all falling apart. Okay, what do I do? And then you're going to have to take the jump, right? Faith, prayer, optimism, positivity is so important. And I'm not one of those people who's like spiritual bypassing, like just be happy all the time. Like Saturn energy says sometimes you have to have that decline, the isolation, the really shitty pulling yourself out of the hole, you know, carving out all of the gunk with both of your hands, very Pluto, so you can hit the bottom only to focus on where you're going up from here. So for some of you guys, it has not been a glamorous experience. There's nothing glamorous about having an awakening or going through stuff. Likely it's brought about by crisis or death or addiction or trauma, right? So this is not easy. At least in Pisces season, we're going to see all kinds of sextiles to planets like Pluto, Venus, Mars, and also trines to the North Node in Scorpio. So really what we're doing is we're detoxing. We're working hard at healing, and we're focusing on healing in a sense of really using courage to get there. So more on that, I'll talk about that soon. The Jupiter, Pisces, Uranus, Taurus miracles. February 18th, we've got the sun entering into Pisces. Welcome to Pisces season. Those of you guys who are February Pisces, happy birthday to you. Okay, so this is when the sun ingresses. Basically, that's when this is going to start. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to see the sun catch up to Jupiter, just a heads up. But when the sun does come into conjunction with Jupiter, which I think is likely going to be happening either at the end of February, beginning of March, this is going to be a period of time where we're actually going to see positive expansion, change happening. We're going to see lucky periods. Sun conjunct Jupiter can be a very lucky day, especially because it's going to make aspects to Capricorn. So that's when Pisces season is going to begin. So yes, happy birthday to my February Pisces. On the 20th, we are going to then see America's Pluto return. Now, if you guys have not already seen that, I did do a Pluto return video. So that went out a couple months ago. I'm working on my part 2 because I do want to get my part 2 somewhere out mid-month. So I can just do a follow-up because I got to tell you, I think I did it back in August, maybe September. I don't remember when I did it. But a lot of the things I talked about are happening. So go take a look at that. Lots of people are talking about the Sibley chart and the Pluto return. In the next video, I'm actually going to cast the chart for the Pluto return, give my food for thought with what's been happening thus far, and talk to you guys a little bit more about how that's going to play out really for the better part of the next 2 years. Will something happen that day? I don't know. You know, I don't know. I looked at the Pluto return. I think it might take about 48 to 72 hours because the moon is actually going to be, I believe, in Libra when it starts. So I'm anticipating probably when the moon gets into Aries. Is it Aries? I'd have to look at the actual return. Let me see here. Yeah, so the moon's going to be in Libra. So I'm anticipating when the moon probably gets to either Capricorn or Aries is when we're going to see more. But it's interesting when I laid the Pluto return actually over the United States charts, just some of the stuff that was happening. It was pretty wild. So definitely watch what's going on with the United States. Obviously, Pluto represents change, transformation, rebirth, decay, death. And the Pluto return chart has an 8th house sun, so there's no doubt that that's going to be a big theme going on over the next year and a half. Literal, metaphorical, I don't know. We'll get into that, but there's definitely a lot happening. So America, the breakdown before the breakthrough is happening. Pluto return is really about America having to come to terms with, I think, a lot revolving around financially what's kind of gone on and where there's been an abuse of financial power, where there's too much money in big business, too much money in politics, but also just us having to kind of play out the karma revolving around our land and who we had to kill and what ruthless acts we did in order to take this land and how that's actually playing out karmically. So if you guys want to go ahead and watch the first one, take a look at that. I'll put another one out here probably in about a week or two because I have a lot to say about that. Then on February 24th, we are going to see that Mercury in Aquarius is going to come back into the square with Uranus and Taurus. Now, we actually had this when Mercury first got ready to go retrograde. If you guys remember, Mercury stopped just short of Saturn and it squared Uranus. So that was pretty strong about the 12th of January through the 17th of January. Reflect back to those conversations and what was happening. Remember, Mercury is communication, contracts, travel, business, ideas. So when Mercury in Aquarius, which is very kind of Uranian, forward-thinking, the future, very conspiracy-esque, when that comes back into a square with Uranus, you know, the 24th, 25th, 26th, watch for fireworks. There can definitely be conflict revolving around what you're reading online versus what's happening in the markets. There can be lots of conspiracies about what's going on financially, which may actually turn out to be true, to be honest with you. There can be also energy and information trying to get out right before Mercury comes into a conjunction with Saturn. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think that we want to watch out for conflicts in terms of talking about politics. We want to watch out for conflicts in terms of giving advice about investments or talking about what we're going to do with our money or just sharing ideas in terms of our values with other people. We may find that very likely there's lots of conflicting values. Everybody will experience this tension. It'll be short, but it's going to pack a real punch. And I think that this can actually kind of grind the gears in terms of our thought process, and we can have a hard time wrapping our heads around the news that's coming out, and it can be a little unsettling or just not kind of sit well with us. Not a day, the 24th through the 26th, to have really important conversations or to have anything that is going to be transactional in terms of business or resources. You really want to watch out for that big time. Now, the end of February, we are going to see, this is going to really pick up the 26th through the 28th. Mars, Venus, and Pluto are all conjunct. They will officially conjunct at 27, and then again, Mars and Venus will conjunct at 29 degrees. We'll talk more about that in March. I'll talk a lot about that the last week of February, actually. But there's a power up period, right? Mars and Venus, North Node, South Node rulers coming together again, conjunct Pluto, big power. So we're actually going to see possibly some kind of military mobilization. This is like, unfortunately, power, war energies. This is also energy revolving around government kind of taking a stronghold, business taking a stronghold, something in regards to moves that they're making with money, something regarding taxes, something regarding budgets, something regarding inflation. Remember, the North Node grows. So the North Node in Taurus is prices are getting higher, food is getting higher, resources are getting, scarce because of the Saturn-Uranus squares. We're really going to see this all the way up until spring of 2023, guys. Saturn and Uranus are going to square the whole second half or last 3 months of 2022. So as planets come into conjunction with Aquarius, you're going to hear a lot of, with Saturn in Aquarius, you're going to hear a lot of scarcity, limitations, we don't have things, production issues, right? Why? What's really going on here? Well, Aquarius and Mercury and Saturn is all the future of technology. Call me crazy, but part of me starts to kind of feel like part of what's gone on with this pandemic and what's been happening is the rollout of 5G is coming, all kinds of new changes and innovations with the metaverse, and perhaps big changes to the internet and what might be the birth of the next internet, where we are really integrating technology into our currency, where we're really integrating technology into our lives. 2 years of supply chain issues. Really, this is because people haven't been working because of a pandemic, when in reality, have we been home because they've been preparing AI and getting everything ready, and what may be millions and millions of people out of jobs because technology is now advancing and it's actually taking jobs. Is that what's happening? That's what I think. And I think we're going to realize that so much stuff has been orchestrated and organized with the government and also with business and with tech that this hard alignment is coming this spring, and we're going to find out that a lot of people don't have jobs to go back to because machines have replaced what we're doing. AI. Watch for that. Call me crazy, call me conspiracy, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But there's something about this that's coming, and people are going to go, what the fuck? What do you mean we're moving to crypto? What do you mean there's going to be full-blown only digital money moving forward? I think we're going to hear more about this in August. I think about also, I heard like a bunch of like, now that 5G is coming out, a bunch of like 3G and like other phones, they're all going to get bricked. All kinds of technology will be dead in the water. And you're either getting on the ride and you're going into the utopian future, or hopefully you're joining a commune, growing your own food. I don't know. It's going to be we're going to see all year long, there's going to be this conflict of values, and there's going to be the earthy agriculture, kind of traditional, grounding out, we build and grow and do all of this stuff for the world, very kind of Taurus, Cancerian vibes, Virgo vibes too. And then we're going to see the more kind of like Sag, Aqua, future. So, like I said, call me crazy. That's really what I think is happening. And I think a lot of people are going to realize that there has been so many things put in place that we're going to find out about this year that it will make sense why they were trying to suppress the masses, right? But yeah, end of February, man, Mars, Venus, and Pluto all conjunct. Major power up with the trine to the North Node, where the past and maybe the pain and the fear of the past is actually fueling our goals and thwarting us forward to go, no, I'm not going back there. I'm not going back to scarcity. I'm not going back to poverty. I'm not going back to pain. I'm not going back to death and loss. I'm moving forward. And the North Node in Taurus wants us to simplify things. It needs to be easy, right? So it will be easier to find food at some point. Maybe we grow it ourselves. It'll be easier to have access and resources and money, maybe because there's going to be more freedom when it comes to that. So that is the end of my spiel. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Some food for thought just in the most important transits of February 2022. Obviously, like I said, if you want to know how it's going to affect you, check out my links below. Go ahead and check out my February 2022 horoscopes. And also last week was the new moon in Aquarius. Part 2 of how to read a natal chart is going to be coming out soon. If you guys haven't already checked out my how-to video, probably the one thing I get asked the most from people is, how do you assess a natal chart? How do you do it personally? So I gave you guys the part 1, which is not even looking at aspects. It's just looking at the chart ruler, the nodes, and some things that are going on in terms of patterns. And I don't even really talk about anything other than the sun, moon, rising, and also the nodes and the chart ruler. Part 2, we're going to get into talking about things like Mercury, Venus, Mars, right? Pluto, and all the other planets that kind of fully fill out our personality. So look for that this week. That's coming. And also my hot takes on the Jupiter-Venus sextile and the miracles that are going to be showing up in our lives. That's the content I'm making. Working on the Pluto return video. That's going to be coming out soon. Got done getting everything ready for my very first fireside chat, so I'm excited to do that. I've got a guest coming on. We're going to talk all about Pluto and Aquarius and what Pluto and Aquarius means, some of our perspectives on this. It's going to be with an Aquarius rising friend of mine, so I'm really stoked to do that. I think she's going to be very insightful and one of my favorite people, one of my best friends, so I'm excited to bring her on. If you guys haven't already checked out my Midheaven podcast, please do. There is a new pod that's dropping on Monday. It's all about the nodal changes. I just did a video on the nodal changes, but if you want, you know, to see Mike and I go back and forth and kind of duel it out and some of our crazy perspectives and predictions for now the North Node in Taurus and South Node in Scorpio, check that out. And live this week, we're going to be doing tarot readings this Saturday on my channel. It's going to be the beginning of the month. Awesome time to join membership, so that way you can kind of get in there and get a reading and get a little bit of a taste of what a personal reading is like with me. As always, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. Hit that bell button below so you are alerted when I have new content coming out. Hopefully you guys are liking all the changes in the channel. Like I said, my goal is by this summer, I'm hoping by the North Node Uranus conjunction in August, to get to a point where I can be making content every day. I want to start making videos every day, bringing more to you guys and starting to kind of build out my library, doing some educational stuff. I'm hoping to get more donations and more memberships so I can really start this spring, once these retrogrades are over, doing my study club. So I'm planning on having a study club that's going to be an affordable subscription. We're going to meet twice a month on Zoom. We're going to start teaching and learning about the basics of astrology. So if you want to learn with me, stay tuned. It's coming, I promise. I know I keep saying that, but I have to wait for the right election date to drop it. You guys have any questions or comments, leave it below. Otherwise, I will see all of you later this week. Enjoy February. Enjoy the new energies. Roll with the punches. I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.